Hello.
Hello, hello.
We are live, Dan. We are
Yeah.
live.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
Hello, everyone. This is Reza Dorrani.
And this is Daniel Christian. And
Welcome
welcome to the
to
R&D
the
show.
R&D show.
Well,
Hey, Dan. How are you doing? How's your week been?
it was a busy week, I'll tell you that. But you know what? It's Friday, it's happy day, so I'm really excited about our new show over here. So,
Likewise.
Reza, go ahead.
Yeah, likewise. I think I'm really excited about the show. I've been thinking about it for the last 10 days. Uh, our topic is interesting, and I felt we got to give something different, something new to the audience. And my week has gone. Of course, I have my day job, and then community work, and then thinking about what I showcase on the R&D show. So extremely excited to be here. And I have actually I have a question for you, Dan.
Okay.
This is we've called this the R&D show. Good nameplate. Many people have actually asked me why we chose the R&D show. So I wanted to actually ask the person who gave the show a name. Why did you call this the R&D show? Is it research and development, or is there any other meaning to this?
Oh, well, R&D definitely means research and development, but I liked the spin-off that it was Reza and Daniel's show. And then I want to definitely start off with we had thought about this almost a year ago, but then since we blog so much and we've got our own lives and things like that, we never got around to doing it. But it happened. I said, okay, this is great. We'll go ahead and start it. So R&D to me means two things. It's Reza and Daniel, but just both our natures. We're constantly doing the research and development across so many things, Microsoft 365, the Power Platform, and all of that. So it just rhymes very well. It's an R&D show, and it means so much more than just Reza and Daniel. So that's what it means.
I like that. Yeah, so it's Reza and Daniel doing research and development. And why is it show? Because we're going to show things, what we build. So yeah, it kind of all falls into place. Yeah, we're getting a quite a decent audience right now and growing. So hello everyone. We're going to keep an eye on the chat. Of course, we will have live Q&A at the end. We will give you an opportunity to ask your questions at the end of the session. We have a lot of good demos planned. So we want to get started with today's show, which is our R&D show. And our topic today is Power Platform integration, which is an extremely key topic because as they say, better together. The total is greater than the sum of its parts. And Dan and I are here today to show you exactly that. So let's not waste any time and get straight into it. And we're going to get started with Dan. Dan's presenting and showcasing some cool stuff that he has built. So let's check it out in action.
Awesome. All right. So let me just go ahead and make sure my screen is being played. Very good. And the first thing is our Power BI report. So now this is one of the first integrations. It's actually, this practice has been there for a while, but I thought we'll go ahead and at least start off with this. And remember, we're talking about an entire Power Platform. So in this case, I'll prove to you a couple of things. Well, this is a combination of Power BI reports, Power Automate, connection to social media, which is Twitter, and then I'll also add on the last two, which is Powerapps and Teams. So 5 things over here. We'll go ahead and do a solid holistic connection over here. So let's first understand this Power BI report and what it is for. So as you can see, and some of you even saw me actually test this last night. Oops, sorry, may confuse you. So if you now go to your Twitter, and with your Twitter handle, you go ahead and post stuff like you go ahead and take screenshots of our show, you go ahead and take screenshots over here, or just tweet all that. When you tweet it with the hashtag RND_show, and I put that in the chat over there, you will actually be picked up. Your chat gets picked up. Oh, and there's another little surprise for you. Reza, should I tell the surprise right now, or should I wait for the end?
I think we wait for the end. Keep going.
For the end. All right. let's just tell you one thing is that we are picking up the hashtags that you're doing. So make sure that you go in hashtags because we're picking them up, and we'll tell you what that surprise is. So let that be an incentive. Go ahead and tweet. So anyway, this is the hashtag. Go ahead and post stuff. Feel free to take screenshots. and post it on social media, because we'll be picking that up. So how does that work, and how is it over here so presentably? So let's take a look. All right. So in my first thing I do is I got a flow that's running. Now in my flow, I've actually got two different flavors of this flow. So let me show you this one piece. The first flavor of the flow is it goes ahead and has this Twitter handle or trigger, and it's picking up the hashtag RND_show. Now, first thing I do is, just to be sure that I don't miss any of the information, I go take the tweets and I go and save it in a data source. I picked SQL so I can make sure I have a large data coming in. And then I'm picking up all of these different, tweet information that it gives. And it picks up, that Automate gives you a lot of functionality to go ahead and get all this information, which is pretty awesome. This is the piece that I said I've done it another way. So what I did was, I have my Azure sentiment analysis. I've gone ahead and set that up. I've gone ahead and gotten my connection over here, which is the key. I've gone ahead and grabbed that, and I'm going ahead and sending that API, that tweet over directly to that. Now, this is one of the ways that I've done it, is I made a direct HTTP call to the API service, and that API service then goes ahead and does all that magic for me. After that, I go ahead and get information back. It goes ahead and breaks down into the JSON. I go ahead and make sure that I'm also grabbing all the analysis stuff, which is the sentiment, and then I go ahead and post it back into my row, which is back into my SQL. In my SQL, the last thing that I go ahead and update it is, I gotta know what the ID is because it's an update, and I go ahead and put the sentiment. Now, for some of you who may be doing this for a while, I know there is a great Power BI SharePoint guy. His name is John White. Him and I have been doing this a while. John was one of the first guys to do it. So John, if you're listening to this, hi. Him and I already knew that the initial connector which was there and the action which was, or the step which was there, was just a sentiment, and you went ahead and put in the text, and that's it. Well, now that has changed a little bit. In fact, you just can't, that sentiment, that connection and that step is a little different. So while I was still figuring that out, I went ahead and did this direct HTTP call over here. That's the one I used. But let me show you also the new technique which is available. So I'm going to actually go and show that to you. So I come in, and now this is actually just, that's not the one. This is the one which, it's just a simple test. So let me go and turn that on. I actually intentionally closed it. And that's what it is now. This is now the new step. It looks the same. It's got the same icon. But when you open it, it looks a lot different. Like before, there was just a place you go and put in the text, which was whatever your tweet text was, and it worked. But now it's a little different. So it needs two important things. It will go ahead and tie it to an ID. It needs a ID. In this case, it's saying, what is your document ID? So it doesn't have to be a document stored somewhere and you got to get an ID. Just put in an ID. And then afterwards, you got to go and put in the document text. Again, it doesn't have to be a document with the text in it. You can just go and put in the text. So those were the two big things. What it does do is it actually goes ahead and pulls a lot more information. Like if there's multiple sentences, it'll go and break down that multiple sentences level. It really goes ahead and gives a robust and detailed information. And what you want to do for that is that you want to go ahead and now break that down into a couple levels. You go ahead and get it, say, hey, this is the one document. So go ahead and get me, I want to apply this sentiment analysis for each and every document. So I go ahead and get the first document, and then I go ahead and get for each and every sentiment, I go ahead and get the score. And that's what I do, is I go ahead and get the confidence score for that. So I thought I'll quickly show this one to you because of the big reason that the whole action and the step has changed, but its overall process is the same. It will do the sentiment analysis. It will go ahead and get you like a confidence score or what it is. It still has the same information that it pulls. It's just a little different. So that's basically from the flow side that it actually does a really good job. And then I can choose. Yeah.
I have a question. So
go for it.
Very interesting. So you have a Twitter connector in Power Automate that can actually look at live Twitter feeds, pick any hashtag of my choice, which is really cool. I'm assuming I can just search for any text. So I can search for Reza, and anybody says Reza is doing great, it just comes in.
It does. So that's a good call. These are a couple of things that you can do. You can go ahead and put in terms like happy hour. You can put in a hashtag. I can go ahead and search for an at mention. Or I can even just put in plain text and it'll go and pick that up. So you've got a few options to play around with from that Twitter and the trigger standpoint. It actually is pretty awesome. I like the way it makes it easier.
Yeah.
And then what the other thing is, once you go and click over here, like I'll just use an example. Like
Yep.
these are all the things it'll pull. The tweeted text, tweeted by you. If you put any media, like you go ahead and put in any of the images, it'll go and grab its URL, your location, location that you've added to your Twitter handle, Twitter ID, when it was created. It even tells me how many likes you had, how many followers you had, statuses of your account. If you went ahead and even did a retweet, it picks up that retweet count. So I was actually pretty impressed at how much metadata it picks up. So I was pretty happy with that. And
Nice.
what I do is then I go ahead and basically present all of this. So this is like the homegrown version. I mean, this is the the version of it. In fact, if I just go ahead and do a refresh, we'll even see. In fact, you know what? Let's just do it just for grins and giggles. We'll go ahead and we'll actually take a look at this one.
So you
Let's
took
be
the
running.
tweets. So Dan, you took the tweets, you put it in SQL, and then your Power BI report is connecting to SQL directly. So every tweet that comes in, which goes into your database, you have it connected live here in your Power BI report.
Absolutely. Yep, it is coming over here. It's going and updating it, and then I'm going ahead and refreshing it just to make sure more and more tweets come in. It's actually for Power BI in a nutshell. It is saving it in the back end. It's got a data set over there, and I'm going and directly talking to it. So remember, total number of tweets before was 16. I just did a quick refresh, and now we're up to 24. That's 8 more over here. But then each of the 24s, how many 24 people, how many followers they have, I'm going ahead and summing that up to the total reach that we've done. I'm also capturing all of definitely their messages, but then how many of them have gone ahead and tweeted again. So while I was doing some testing, that's why I went ahead and grabbed my count. But then I'm also going and doing this nice, a word puzzle over here, which all the people who tweeted it, I'm going ahead and capturing their names. And then if I just go and scroll down to the right, just to see if I can grab today's people. These are 8 tweets have already come in. So, hey, everybody's watching, keep tweeting because I'm going to go pick you up. And remember, there is a big reason for this that we're going to talk about this at the end. So that's basically what is happening over here. Now, let me take this to the next level. What happens is if this is actually used by a company to do analysis of all the social media effects that it's happening. In that case, one of the things we could do is we can do sentiment analysis to see, hey, is this a negative or is this a positive? They could put in AI that if it is a negative, go ahead and analyze it. But you want the human touch involved, and you want some way for the people that are using it to go ahead and actually put in that information somewhere. So I'll go ahead and actually give you a much bigger view of this. I'll go in and I'll go ahead and make this full screen. Now, say for example, I am part of the communication/social media department. We are following all the hashtag tweets that are coming in. And if for some reason any of the tweets are not behaving really well, or they want to analyze, like, hey, this is a tweet put in by a customer who shared a legitimate problem, I want to be able to go ahead and take that and assign it to the social team. So for that, I've gone ahead and now taken this to the next level. This is where all those 5 pieces we talked about, Power BI, Power Automate, the Twitter connector, going ahead and using a Powerapps, and then the final pieces, we'll go and put this into teams. So I want to actually go and say this scenario where we've got, say there is an example of, I'm going to randomly pick somebody, right? Moment I randomly picked somebody, we've gone ahead and picked all the information directly into Powerapps. See, I didn't have to fill any of this in. It's taking all this information, who the person is from, what was the tweet, and then it goes ahead and gives me the flexibility to even assign my comment over here. It says, hey, this is an important tweet, important customer information. Let's put that as customer info. As you can see, I've gone ahead and based on that, there is a little added space which is saying that please review this tweet by, it puts in the information, it's going and doing all of this. Now, I'm gonna click on the button, cross my finger, and click on submit. It gave me that one error. Remember that Twitter handle, that the message which does, it is still in that posting to teams, it is in preview. So it seems to me that the first 2 clicks, I seem to have a problem in my tenant, but maybe it's not. Okay, so it went now and took that and posted it into the Teams channel. So let's actually go take a look. So I think I have my Teams up and running. Oh, I even have my Teams up and running. Let me go grab that really fast.
And then time check.
Awesome. So what it basically did is it went ahead and the last piece is it went ahead and grabbed that information and it puts it into my own Teams channel. So in my own Teams channel, I didn't even log in over here. Let me just grab it straight into my section from here. Should have got straight from the browser. I'll go in, I'll go to my Teams on the right, and that'll directly do a browser-based Teams. So I go into the browser-based Teams, and right section on the left, you will see that on the website, it will give me all the teams that I have, or one very specific team. In that case, I have a channel called social media channel. In that social media channel, you will see all my posts coming in. So right there, social media, and the one that I just posted directly comes over here for the social media team to go ahead and analyze that. And this is all coming straight from the Power BI side. So if I were to now randomly go and pick somebody else and their post information in my dashboard, doctor, if I go and click on submit, next message went in. So if I go on the social media, next message came over here. Remember, the full collaboration of 5 things, which was, again, the Twitter for the flow to go ahead and pick that up, dump it into my data source, which was the SQL, presented that in Power BI, and then using Powerapps, I could go and push that into Teams, a full platform over there.
Amazing. That is really neat. And guys, Daniel Christian built this for the show, just to let everyone know. He built this on the fly, literally, for this specific show. So keep the hashtag going. It's hashtag RND_show. There is going to be a prize for the winner at the end of season 1. So whoever leads, we're going to show this every time when the show begins, so we know who's the leader. Of course, Dan and I might be leading because we're going to tweet a lot about it, so we'll remove our names.
Yeah.
Okay. Now switching context back to me this time. I plan to showcase something what Dan showed, an extended version of that piece. So let me go ahead and share my stream. So I'll share my stream, and Dan, please confirm if you can see my screen.
I can see your screen.
All right, perfect. So let's take a scenario of a device ordering or a device management solution. Of course, you need data, you need a data source. In my scenario, I picked Microsoft Dataverse as my data source. And in here, I have a lot of information about devices that my organization owns: the name of the device, the ID, the type of the device, the status of the device, whether it's assigned to someone, when it is due, and other relevant details related to a specific device. Now, Power BI is great at analyzing data. Basically, you can read data from any data source and build dashboards and reports. And in this case here, I'm showcasing a report which has a couple of simple visuals, a tabular visual that shows device information right here on the left. And on the right-hand side, I have a pie chart that shows the statuses of my devices. So I have, for example, 84 devices available, 6 in repair, and 10 that are currently assigned to my users. Now, Power BI handles reporting perfectly, but what if I want to perform CRUD operations on my data? I want to actually create something, update something, maybe even delete a specific record. To do that, we need Powerapps. And in order to use Powerapps inside of Power BI, right now I have edited this report. So on the right-hand side, under visualizations, we have an option here which is called the Powerapps visual for Power BI. And in this visual, so if I was to add this visual here on the screen, all I have to do is pass my fields from my Power BI data set to my Power App. So in my data set, I have connected the devices table. Now, if I would like to pass certain pieces of information like the device name, the device status, the device type, I can just select the data that I want to pass to Power Apps. And then right here, I can go ahead and start creating my Power App. Now, in my case, of course, I've already pre-built my app. So here is my visual, which is my Power App visual right here in the center. And these are the pieces of information that I'm passing to this app. The data is coming from Power BI. So what's the advantage of the data coming from Power BI and having a Power App open up inside the context of Power BI? Well, because the data is coming from Power BI, if I was to filter or refine my data in the Power BI report, automatically the data in the Power App would also be updated. That's because the data set is coming from Power BI. So if I was to just refresh this report, and once the components of this report load, And while the report loads, here is that Power App, which has this key aspect called Power BI integration. This is that integration object that gets created, and the data here in my gallery is coming from that integration object. So you can directly read that data in Power Apps. But to perform CRUD operations, basically creating, updating, deleting data, I need to connect directly to my data source because the Power BI data is read only. And the way I can do that in Power Apps is just go to data source, go to add data, either pick from the tables available in Dataverse or connect to any connector of your choice. In my case, I have my table devices connected here. When a user selects a specific device, I load up the form, the user can make changes, and this form is connected directly to my data source, which is my devices table in Microsoft Dataverse. Now, once the update of data is performed, that is, once this form successfully submits the data, so the form has a property called onSuccess. Here I have another magic function that I've leveraged, which is called Power BI integration.refresh. And what this does is Power Apps can initiate a refresh of the visuals in Power BI. And this is very handy in scenarios when your Power BI report has the data sets connected in direct query mode. So let me show you this in action right now. Let's say I pick a specific device. Let's say Acer Aspire S7. I'm going to select this. Now I am filtering the data in Power BI. Now, because Power Apps is aware of it, it will filter the results there as well, automatically. So I can see that I'm related to this device. I'm going to select this device, and this device was in repair. And let's say it got repaired, it came back. So I want to change the status to available. So I'm going to change this to available, and I'm going to click submit. Now, clicking submit is going to post the data to my data source. But not just that. I am also, after I do that, I'm initiating a refresh of the Power BI visuals. So let's check this magic out in action. Right now, if we observe Acer S7, the status is in repair. If I hit submit, what's going to happen is it's going to post the data and it's going to refresh the status live on the fly. And you're going to see all the visuals in Power BI being refreshed. So here, the status has changed to available. Also, if we look at the filters on the right-hand side, the filters would have also changed back to its original state. So that's the power that this experience brings in, is you can actually select multiple devices, you can filter your data, and Power Apps is aware of it. Now let's take another use case. What if I want to integrate Power Automate here? So just like we have a Power Apps visual, we also have a Power Automate visual. And this is what the visual looks like here. It gives you a button, and if I click on this button, it will trigger flow. And not just trigger flow, it will contextually pass the data as well. Which data? The data that I am parsing to that visual inside Power BI. So let's say I need a report of all my devices that are in repair. I go ahead and select in repair. In Power BI, basically, I am filtering my data to in repair. So I can see everything changing contextually. The filter is being applied. I can see the filter here. Even the Power App respects it. Well, guess what? So does Power Automate. And if I select this button right here, which says run the flow, this will go ahead and trigger the flow and pass the data contextually from Power BI to Power Automate. And now if I head over to my email, I get a report that looks like this. And all this data is coming from Power BI. So you can use Power Automate, or you can go ahead and use Power Apps directly in the context of Power BI and create extremely powerful experiences for your users.
Man, that was wow. I mean, I can even see the people on the comments over there posting stuff about it. So, I mean, just to make sure, you were able to integrate whole bunch in Power BI, but the one which really was a big one for me was the capability to refresh directly from Power Apps all those visuals that you have on Power BI. So you've kind of accomplished two things. You went and added data directly inside Power BI, which is always awesome. But then it refreshes the data set as well. So my question to you is, based on, and I'm not going to say the license L word. That's always scary. We've actually got a whole different video on that. Reza already took care of it, so we won't talk over here. But is there any limitations of how many times we can do those refreshes? Are we like 8 or 20? Is there any of that? Does it happen over here?
That's a great question. What I showcased today in that demo, I leveraged Microsoft Dataverse. My data source in Power BI is connected in direct query mode. If you have your data set in direct query mode, you can have unlimited refreshes, because in reality, you're not refreshing your data source. You're just refreshing your visuals, which initiates the query against your data source. In scenarios wherein your data source does not support direct query, case in point, SharePoint. In that case, you're limited to the number of refreshes. And the Power BI refresh function that I showcased only works for refreshing the visual. So if you have SharePoint, you have to still refresh your data set. Now, guess what? From Powerapps, I can call Power Automate, and Power Automate has the Power BI connector that allows me to refresh a data set. So guess what? Here's another layer that can be added to this, and we can even initiate the refresh of data sets not in direct query mode, basically import mode. However, you will be limited to 8 or 40 refreshes depending upon your license.
That was awesome. I mean, again, you've taken it to the whole concept of this video is the integration piece, and his added one was even sending an email notification. Because at the end of the day, if people are traveling and they don't have access to Teams, like I said, the notification comes to them. So we've kind of given a holistic approach over here, because when I showed it, we posted on Teams. Reza shows it, he went ahead and send an email, and it has a notification. Now, granted, Reza could just add another action. He can post it to Teams as well. It's literally that simple process. So again, the key for everybody who's watching this now or watching it later on, the whole purpose is holistic Power Platform integration, because that's always been the one thing. If you silo the use of just one, you might come into certain roadblocks. But when you do this holistic approach, it really completes each other, and that's the whole point over here. So you know what, Reza, I want to show you one
more thing. Just to add one more thing before we go to the next section is the database, right? I get this question a lot. Which database should I use? Well, Dan used SQL. Right? He used SQL as a data source. I used Microsoft Dataverse. We're going to show you examples now with SharePoint. So really, it doesn't matter what your data source is. The Power Platform can connect to your data source, no matter where it is in the cloud, on premises. Power Platform can connect to it and get the data for you. And our goal here is to show you different scenarios. So let's not waste time, and let's get into our third scenario, this time with SharePoint as a data source. And Dan will be showcasing a solution that he designed leveraging SharePoint. So Dan, I'm going to put you up on stream, and the floor is yours.
Awesome. So one of the things and this is something that I first came up with, two years ago. It was still in its infancy at that time. So I just built it and I tested it in our local Charlotte area SharePoint user group, or the UG over there. And it worked, and I was kind of playing around with it. But now it has actually been taken off, because I posted in the in the Powerapps user community, and I got so much more feedback over there. People were taking it, they were tweaking it, they were doing it in their own user groups. In fact, we actually tested this at the recent event which I spoke at, was the SharePoint Fest in Chicago. That was a much more bigger audience, and we even tested this over there. So let me kind of walk you through what this is. Now, in this case, it is, again, a holistic integration purpose, where my front end is a Powerapps. I am using a flow, and then I'm also going ahead and using SharePoint as a backend data source. Now, one of the reasons I used SharePoint is, in your scenario, you may not have used, say, Microsoft Forms. So let me actually back up and even explain that. One of the things that we've done in our events, like the SharePoint Saturdays or the Microsoft 365 Saturdays, is that when all the speakers are done speaking, we would give them a Microsoft form for a survey. The more surveys they filled, the more raffle tickets they got, because each entry was taken, a flow picked it up and went ahead and saved it into a SharePoint list over there. Now, there were scenarios where they did not use Microsoft Forms, they had any of their own apps. What people have done is they would export that as a CSV, import that CSV into a nice Excel spreadsheet, do some cleanup over there. It literally takes all of 5 minutes, if not less. and then you upload that into a SharePoint. So SharePoint gives you that flexibility when you've gone ahead and you want to create a list. It will go ahead and ask you, hey, is this coming from a SharePoint? From an Excel spreadsheet, or is it coming from where? See, like right here, it'll ask you, where is it coming from? You already may have that spreadsheet sitting in a documents library. If you do, great. If not, that is also okay. You simply go ahead and click on the upload, and then you go ahead and pick on wherever your raffle ticket is. In my case, my raffle ticket may actually be coming from this spreadsheet over here. And then I go ahead and grab that spreadsheet. It'll get it uploaded. And finally, this is what my list looks like. So initially in the list, a couple of things you need. You need to know who the person is and try to make that person very unique. And the best way to make that person unique is based on an email address. So as you can see, I have Marcos Garcia over here, but Marcos's email address, well, there could be Marcos Garcia, bunch of them in the company. And so how do you understand which one is the is a unique person? Which one is the person who actually won the raffle ticket? Well, the uniqueness comes from an email address, because there can only be one email address for one person. They can't be duplicate email addresses. And so that's why this was a good way to go ahead and set up the Unity. The other thing I did was I want to know who are the winners for many reasons. Big one is, well, we want to know who the winners are, because say if that winning item was actually given by someone who went ahead and gave the prize, one of the person who was actually helping funding that, then we can go and forward that person's contact information over to the sponsor, and then the sponsor can use that for whatever reasons. And so that way, having the initial values all set to know, first of all, help me know who the winners are, who are not the winners. And then after somebody is a winner, we can go ahead and automatically update that list over here. I can go and filter it to find out who are the winners, and then I can find out who the winners really are. Now, that's from a management standpoint, basically to help our sponsors get the information. But there is a technical reason for this, because what the flow does, and what the app and the flow does, is basically the app just goes ahead and I go and click on submit. There's a flow running. The flow will go ahead and randomly pick, and voila, I probably just got an error over there. Whatever. The flow basically goes ahead and runs randomly. Will go ahead and pick some person from the list, and then the list will go ahead and send the information. From the list, and the flow will send the information back. When that is happening, there is actually a change which is going on. So let me actually show you what the change is. It will go ahead and update the winner's name and put that as yes. The reason I want that, besides the fact that I can find the winners, is in my get items, I do a OData query. My OData query says that, hey, only go and get all the information whose value is no. So right from the get-go, I am doing a server-side refresh. I'm doing a server-side call. So I don't need to get all the information of all the winners into my flow. And then in my flow, I put in some if condition where the left-hand side, and equal, and then all the no's. I don't want to do that on the flow side. I do that on the server side. And that is a very important piece to understand, that you go and do that. And then afterwards, I can go ahead and initialize a flow, a variable, and I use the very useful, very powerful rand function. It's RAND. That also stands for random function. It's there in Powerapps. It's also there in Power Automate. And so with the rand function, I get an integer, and then I go ahead and do a get item. The get item will actually go ahead and pull out the ID directly matched to that random one. Now I am going to pause over here and answer this one question I get a lot. And it's a legitimate question. The question I get is, and actually I'm pretty sure the way Reza's wheels are turning in his head, he's got that question in his mind too, is that, Daniel, it is very possible that ID could be called multiple times, because it's a rand function. We don't know how that rand function is thinking. So initially it went ahead and randomly picked 17. Well, how do you know that it's not going to call 17 again? And if it does call 17, what do you do? So I'll give you two important pieces of advice over there. First of all is, when you're testing this specifically in the SharePoint list, when you do all this testing that is going on, it will happen where you've gone ahead and I can see an example over here. I was doing some testing and I actually went ahead and deleted item ID number 1 because I was testing it. I wanted to remove that. So that can, make your flow a little confusing. It can also make your flow very inaccurate. So in this case, here's what I recommend is that do all your testing, but right when you're ready to use that app or that the list for your actual raffle ticket for your event, just build a fresh new list. That way you have the fresh copy of all the IDs which are created, and then your information will be very accurate. Second thing is add a additional step in your flow. So in the additional step, once you go ahead and when you're doing that rand function, it will randomly go and assign this, put in an if condition. The if condition should basically say that, hey, the information that I got, is it already a winner in the SharePoint list? And you can do that two ways. You can actually put in an expression, and that expression basically just says if and all the other stuff. Or to make it easier, go ahead and just create a secondary list. And that secondary list is just keeping track of all the winners. So in this case, when you're going and building the flow goes ahead and says that, hey, I've gone ahead and now here's my winner. Do a check. Just do a quick check on the secondary winner list. If that name or that ID doesn't match over there, great. The winner is accurate. Go ahead and send it to Powerapps. If it's not accurate, and if hey, this name was already picked, this ID number was already picked, go ahead and run another sub if condition. Inside the yes of that if condition, run another step, and then it'll go and grab them over there. So it kind of keeps track. But that's a question that I get asked a lot, is that people who are testing this, hey, did it work? But every once in a while I got that same number again, and it was actually giving me some error or what. And so I said, now I have a foolproof workaround that. Now I'll also tell you that I've used this a lot in a lot of examples. And it's usually always been that running this app and running the flow behind it has always been a one-time scenario, which was usually at the end of the event, at one time. So you go and run it all the time over there. So at that time, which was, the raffle ticket lasts for about 15, 20 minutes or so, I haven't received any duplicates at that time. And I've checked my flows, I've gone and checked my lists, none of them failed. So I anticipate, and this is my educated guess, my guesstimate is that if you are going to use a app like this over a larger period of time, like across the week or across the months, that's when there is a highly likely percentage of you getting those duplicates. But based on all my trials, if you just do it in that one-time time span, I've never actually had that problem over here. So just as a recap on this one, though, what we were able to do was build a full Power App, go ahead and take that information from a SharePoint list. Flow is the one that goes and does this. And then you can get your data anywhere. You could also add in the fourth one, which was Microsoft Forms. Forms could be the one that is actually being the data intake source. You can have another flow attached to it to actually take all the data and put it over there. And I use the SharePoint list. So items of 4, another holistic, integration over there in the Power Platform. So I was pretty excited about this. It is available. Reza will post the link to my YouTube video. You can actually go over there. It also, that link of the YouTube video actually has the version 1. The version 1 will let you even download the copy of it from the Power user community. So it's at your convenience. Go ahead and use it. Start testing it, and it's just free. Play with it.
This is really neat, Dan. And the thing that I love most about this is that not only built it, you actually use it, and you use it in real life scenarios. So I know a lot of apps that begin as an idea, get conceptualized, but never see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm glad that you've and I've seen this, I think 3 years ago as well. It was your version 1. This has come a long way. Of course, Power Platform has come a long way, and I'm really happy that you've kept at it, and you've kept upgrading this solution as more and more features have come in. So extremely neat stuff.
And that the app, as my knowledge grew, and as the Power Apps and the Power Platform also grew, I was using all of those new things where I was able to, the first iteration of it, I did what I just told you not to do. Is I went ahead and got all the items, and I went and put a filter function away, or like an if function. I was like, oh man. So I was getting all the calls. I was doing all the filtering over here. The flow took a little longer to run, which means all the people are just like, did I win? Did I not win? Did I win? I was like, no, just wait. The flow is running. It's like, the raffle ticket just took a little longer. But then, my knowledge improved over those 2 years. I was like, you know what? I'll just do an OData query now, and I'll create a additional column in the SharePoint list. which is, all the winners no and all the yes. And that helped me do a server-side OData query call. The flows started running faster too. So there's improvements being on the Power Platform side, and I've leveraged that. But it's always, the thing that we always tell people is that don't get hung up too much on building the app and constantly improving it. Send it out, either in your test user community, in your test users in a company, or a small set of users. Like, you want to start getting some feedback in. And this was my way. I tested in the smaller UGs over there. It worked. Did it in our SharePoint Saturdays. It worked. And then I said, I'm going to share this with the community. And now in major conferences also, this is being utilized. So I'm excited. I'm happy.
Great stuff, man. Great stuff. So continuing on the SharePoint Power Platform integration journey, I'm going to showcase a simple workflow approval-based scenario that I have set up on top of a standard SharePoint list. So I'll switch back the stream and put my stream on. Dan, you'll have to confirm if you can see my screen, please. Loading up. Okay, I think
we are good.
All right. So very simple SharePoint list, a help center, a help desk kind of an application where users can create tickets that get assigned to different departments. So where does the integration of Power Platform come in here? Well, in SharePoint itself, in the ribbon on the top, in a Microsoft or list, in a modern SharePoint list or library, we have the option of integration here. And this integration is with the Power Platform. First step, integration is Powerapps. So I can say I want to create an app based on this specific list. And all I literally have to do is say I would like to create an app, give my app a name. So I'm going to call this my sample app live. And once I've given this app a name, I'm going to click on create. And just like that, Powerapps will launch and create a simple 3-screen application wherein users can search for data, create data, update data, delete data, all of this based on the permissions that the user has. So a simple standalone Power App can be created, which of course you can customize and take it to the next level. The second part in the Power Apps piece itself is customizing forms. Now, what's the difference between creating an app and customizing forms? Creating an app creates a standalone Power App. So you can go to the mobile app, launch that app, and start using it right there. Customizing forms is what is the replacement of InfoPath forms. Here, you can create custom forms for SharePoint using the Power Platform, in this case, Powerapps. So if I click on Customize Forms, this will once again launch Powerapps for me. However, this time I am customizing the list form for SharePoint leveraging Powerapps. So here, I get my form, I get my fields, a standard form control, drag, drop, build multi-screens. To keep it very simple, I'm just going to change the theme here. I'm going to use the dark theme. And once I'm done with my change, I will go to save this form update. And then I will go ahead and publish this to SharePoint. Now, if I head back to my SharePoint list, and if I was to initiate a refresh and click new, this takes a while before the latest update comes in. The form that loads up on the right-hand side panel here, this is my Power App. So rather than loading the SharePoint standard form, it can load up the Power App for you right here inside the context of SharePoint. So let's try it again with the hope that the new theme gets applied, and there you go. So you can create custom forms, or you can create standalone apps using Power Apps. You can build flows that are connected to SharePoint. Dan showed one example of that, wherein the ticket information comes in, he's filtering it, reading it, so you can do things like that. You can also build a Power BI report directly from the SharePoint list by just clicking on this button called Visualize the List. So the integration features with SharePoint are already given to you right here out of the box in the ribbon itself. And without much work, you can get started with the Power Platform integration aspects pretty quickly. Now, of course, you want to extend it. You want to take it to the next level. So I'll give you one example. Now, bear in mind, this is a demo of a video that's coming up next week. So I'm not going to deep dive into it much, but I just want to give you a sneak peek of what you could potentially do. So imagine I have a help desk ticket solution. The users come in and say, yep, I want to create a ticket. I have an issue with my phone. That's my issue. I can pick a department, so I can assign this issue to. So let's say I say, you know what, this goes to facilities, and this is a high priority for me. The due date automatically gets calculated for me. I'm going to click save. Now, the moment I do this, the data goes directly into SharePoint. However, at the same time, I have a flow that gets triggered when an item is created in this SharePoint list. And this is what my flow looks like. The flow triggers when the item comes in into my help desk list. Next step, based on the department that the user selected, I have a separate list of departments. So that choice dropdown you saw in my form of departments when I was creating the ticket, those values are coming from here. I picked the department as the facilities department. So my approval process is going to be assigned to Sarah and James. Why? Because Sarah and James are the approvers. And the way I grab that information in my flow is by simply querying that list and getting that information. And then I have a multi-layer approval step and a lot of good stuff that I will show later in my video, that what this flow can do for you. Now back to SharePoint, let's look at what's happening in this list. Now observe what happened here. The flow got triggered, it updated the status to pending. And here I have something called as an approval timeline. So this shows exactly where the process is. Initially it was new, now it's gone to pending. And the task is assigned to these two approvers, Sarah and James. If I select this little icon here, it will actually pop up a full approval history of what exactly took place during the process. So check this out. The approval was started by Reza at this date and this time. That's correct. Now the approval task is assigned to Sarah and James. Another key concept is how long are people taking to take a decision for approval? It's a very common use case, right? Where is the bottleneck in my approval process? Why is my approver not responding? Is he on leave? Are they just unresponsive? Are they not getting the messages? So here, I've actually added a calculation that shows you how long the approval process has taken. And this is a live calculation, by the way. So if I was to just come back here, it's been a minute now since this approval task has been assigned to Sarah and James. So I can even track how long the approval process takes. Plus, I can create an approval history timeline and integrate all of that into SharePoint. Now, in this case, the task is assigned to James and Sarah. So let me sign in as Sarah. And I'll just play devil's advocate here. I will go ahead and reject this request. So Sarah should have got a notification, which is the approval notification. And in the email itself, Sarah can either approve, reject, and enter comments. So Sarah is going to say reject, better luck next time, and submit. So Sarah has taken the approval decision. Now, once this approval decision is logged, what's going to happen is my timeline here is going to move ahead. Why? Because my approval process is now complete. And check that, it's live. My hands are here. I didn't do anything. What happened now is the flow went ahead and updated the status, which went to rejected. The timeline got updated. The process is over. So the task is not assigned to anyone. There is no timing calculation here. And how do I see the history? Just click here. Boom. It just opens up the history right there in the context of that item with every piece of information you need. What were the commands? When did Sarah respond? What was the decision and more? So you can create these kind of amazing integration experiences. In this case, SharePoint, Power Automate, and a lot of magic of something known as column formatting in SharePoint. So I just wanted to show this use case. I will head back to the stream and bring Dan and me on.
Yeah, that column formatting is one of my personal favorites. It just gives you that one look. You go to the SharePoint list and you don't even have to click to see the details. Like right there, it just shows over there. My personal favorite was that the clock for that time. Like right there, it shows you how much minute it took. That it's those tiny little differences and touches which really brings out the wow in the app. Like I kind of like that, man. That was pretty awesome stuff over there. It was pretty awesome stuff. So I was actually looking at our both our time as well as I was looking at the comments over there. We've pretty much answered all the comments. I was wondering, Reza, do you have something fancy to show? Everything inside Power BI.
Yeah.
Do you have that wow factor where you can take Power BI and put it into Powerapps. Like that's a challenge I'm going to throw to you because I see a lot of the other way. Can you
Yeah.
go ahead and do it the opposite way? Do you got something magic up your sleeve for that?
Actually, yes, and I'll give a shout out to who deserves it. It was Charles Sterling, Microsoft. Charles actually showed me this trick of actually bringing a full Power BI experience into Power Apps. It's the other way around.
Wow.
So let's try and see how this works. So I'll switch back to my stream. Oops, add my stream. Dan, let me know if you can see my screen.
I can see your SharePoint right now.
All right. So I'm going to head over to Power Apps first. So let's go to Power Apps, and here is my Power Apps. I will go ahead and create a app called R&D Live, and I'll create the tablet experience and click create. So the goal here is to see how we can integrate Power BI into Power Apps. This is the other way around. And first thing, of course, I need a Power BI report. So what I did in this case is one of the sample reports that's available. It's a workspace. It's called Retail Analysis Sample. You can just directly go and add it. And that's what I did. And here I have some pieces of information around my store sales, sample data, which states my stores have opened in, what are the sales my stores are making, how many new stores, old stores, who are the managers, and all that good stuff in my Power BI report. Now, let's try and see how we can bring these components into Power Apps. So if I head back to my Power App that I just created, if I need to bring Power BI into Power Apps, the option we have is we can go to Insert, and we can go to Charts. And one of the options here is a Power BI tile. Now, if you select this, it will load up all the workspaces you have access to. So you can select a specific workspace. In my case, let's say I pick my own workspace, and my dashboard is that Retail Analysis Sample Dashboard. And the way this works is you have to pick a specific tile inside your dashboard. So let's say here I pick my sales. So this is going to load up my sales report. And the way this thing works is you have to pick a tile, right? Now, if I wanted to show multiple tiles here, of course, one option is to add multiple Power BI controls inside my Power App and add multiple tiles. But there is another way of doing this as well. What I can do is if I click on a property called tile URL that this specific control exposes, here is the tile URL. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And right here, I'm going to add a button. I'm going to call this sales. Okay, so I'm just creating a very simple button called sales. And on select of this button, I'm going to set a variable. I'm going to call this var tile URL. And I'm going to store that value that I just copied from the tile URL property. Next up, let's say I want another tile to show up here. Let's say I want to show all the stores that are opened this year. I want to show this report. So this report as well has a tile URL. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And just like I added this button, I'm going to create another button. I'm going to call this my stores button. And for this one, I'm going to copy this tile URL and paste it right here in the variable. So all I'm doing is creating a variable that has the value of that tile URL. Now, once I'm done with that, this variable will have that value, right? So if I preview and click, it has that value stored in it. And this Power BI control for the tile URL property, I will now use the variable. Now, the advantage I get is, as I select these buttons, you will observe that dynamically on the fly, the tile URL is changing, and I can have multiple tiles show up in that same Power BI control inside Power Apps. Now, you can do a lot more with this. You can actually even filter data inside this using query param filters. If you want to learn more about that, I hope I got the link right. It is aka.ms/powerbi in Power Apps, or it might be the other way around. Let's see. Yep. This is the URL. So it is aka.ms/pbi in PA, Power BI in Power Apps. And Chuck or Charles Sterling has got a very nice blog post where he explains exactly the scenario that I was showcasing right here. So if you want to try that out in action, go ahead and try it. Now, of course, this is adding a single tile, but what if I want to bring in my full experience? I want to get my whole report with the filters, my tabs. I just need the whole Power BI report inside Powerapps. Can I do something like that? Well, the answer to that is a yes. And the way you can do that is, I'm going to add my Power BI tile once again. What you can do for that is, for this control, if you head over to advanced, there is a new property called, I believe that property is called allow new API. So go ahead and turn this to true. And then for this Power BI control, if I head over to the tile URL, what I want you to do is go ahead and paste the report embedding link that you can grab directly from Power BI. So I can go here, I can go to here, I can just go to the embed option and just pick the Power BI embed URL. Now, once you have that URL, you head back to your Power App and just paste it in the tile URL. And once that piece is in, you will actually have the full Power BI. And I'm going to try and go full screen here. The full Power BI experience inside of Power Apps, not just a single tile, including the refiners. So check this out. Let's say I want to show everything from district, this. So I'm filtering data live, right? Let's say I want to see everything that has fashion districts. So I select fashion districts. Everything is happening live here. You have the full Power BI report experience embedded directly inside Power Apps.
I liked that it was showing that it's responsive also, and you were increasing the height and the width, and bringing it out. That is awesome. Look at that. That's pretty awesome, man.
Yes, man. And now that you say that, you've actually piqued my interest. Let's try something relatively quickly. I don't think it's going to take a lot of time. So the width is parent.width. The height is going to be parent.height. A little bit of responsive designing, guys. Go to settings and ensure that under display, we have scale to fit turned off. Now let's try this. Let's try this live, okay? Wow. Interesting. The filters don't act responsive, but the other components do, which is pretty interesting.
It is.
It's still pretty cool. See, we tried something new live. Okay, and I actually have another use case as well, Dan, if you don't mind me sharing this one.
I do not mind. All the questions are good. Everybody's loving the comments and all the ideas. I like what David had said, that he usually embedded a whole report in Canvas apps using the embedded URL and website.
Yep.
But he's never tried. So, yep, I mean, there's all bunch of good vowels happening. So, yep. We've got 2 more minutes till our Q&A. Yep. So go for it.
Just the last part. So we've seen Power Apps go places inside Power BI here and there. We've seen Power BI go places. We also have another 4th pillar of the Power Platform called Power Virtual Agents. Did not get much love on the call today, but trust me, Dan and I love PVA. So here is an example of a solution that I built in 2019, and I really hope I scrap this app for good. It's the COVID-19 tracker application, which uses a custom connector to get data from Johns Hopkins University web service. So I actually fetch the data from there, load it in my data source. In this case, it's a SharePoint list. I have a Power App that connects to that list, shows me all the data right here. I'm using the new Maps component in Power Apps and a lot more. The goal here is to show you that you can even build Power Virtual Agents, which are chatbots, using the low-code technology. And you can bring that chatbot into a Power App as well. So here on the left-hand side, I have this option called Chatbot. Now, if I select this, this will launch the Power Virtual Agent chatbot experience inside my Power App. And for this, I used a component, a PCF component that was put out by Yash Agarwal. It's an iframe component. So basically all I'm doing right here is just iframing a chatbot inside my Power App. So let's go and interact with the bot. Let's say hello. So once I do that, the bot's going to say, hey, I'm a virtual agent. Do you have any questions related to COVID? I had my questions pre-created because I wanted to save time. So my first question is, well, what is COVID? So the chatbot goes in, looks at the topic, sees if there's a specific response, and then starts responding to that question. Then comes the next question: how does COVID spread? What is the cause of COVID spreading? And then looks up its database and gives me data. So here's an example of a chatbot inside Powerapps, branded. If you observe, the bot also has the branding colors of my app. So you can create these amazing, cool experiences, integration experiences for the Power Platform.
That is awesome. So the chatbot, okay, the yes and the no, that's also the yes and no buttons. That's also
Yes,
from the
yes, this is
chatbot.
all branding. Yes, this is
Awesome.
the yes, no buttons of
That's
the
all the
bot.
branding.
If I say
And
yes, this is all a part of the branding itself.
And this is a Canvas Powerapps, correct?
Yes, sir. This is
Awesome.
a Canvas Power App that has a chatbot embedded directly inside it.
That is convenient. And just so we all know that this is a standalone Power Virtual Agents bot,
Yeah.
right? That's not the Teams one, the standalone one.
This is the standalone one.
That is awesome. No, I like that, man. The embedding into the Powerapps canvas, like we've actually done a whole lot. Like we just, and Reza and I are big fans of the Canvas Studio anyway. Like Reza is showed a great video. By the way, if you check out his YouTube channel, he also showed the model-driven apps and the Canvas app inside. So we just love Canvas apps, and we kind of bought everything together. The Power BI in it, Power Virtual in it. So it's we're at the top of the hour now. It's 12:01 on our side, Eastern time. But I just wanted to do a quick recap, and let's see if we can all keep a count. And if we miss anything, go ahead and put that in the YouTube chat. Is how many things did we cover? So let's start. We did all 4 members of the Power Platform family. So we covered that. We did SharePoint. We did SQL. Reza, you did Dataverse.
Dataverse, yes.
So we're up to 7. I did Twitter. So that's a Twitter connector. What else? We're up to 8. Teams. Yeah. So we're up to 9. We need 1 more. What else did we do?
Custom connector to John Hopkins Web Service.
That's 10. So we are already at 10. What else? Anybody on the chat? Did we miss anything? We covered 10 different things, and then all sorts of mixing and matching things, all inside Power BI, things all inside Powerapps. I mean, we took the whole Power Platform in 60 minutes thing today, and it was amazing. And again, the back of my mind, I always think is that when you're siloed to just one of them, you will run into certain limitations, roadblocks. Together, you can literally achieve anything from fun apps to some serious apps to record all this stuff. And it was pretty awesome. So, Reza, you want to add anything?
I think you said it all, but I'll repeat it again. You're not limited to one service. You can integrate. Of course, I know Dan used that word earlier. The licensing word does play a role. It's important to understand that all of these services have their own license aspects. So you need to be aware of that when you're designing solutions. However, it is always good to know what's possible, what are the different integration aspects, and as you saw today, literally sky's the limit. So now we open the floor up for live Q&A. If you have a question for Dan, for me, a comment, a question, in the chat, just go ahead and post it, and we'll try and pop as much as we can for the next 15 minutes. I will get this thing up on the screen first up because I know this gets asked a lot, and I already have this come up. So Ram is asking this question: do we have the session recorded? So the answer to this is a yes. Every session that we will do is going to be recorded and will be available. I am actually creating a playlist, and I will have a playlist of all these videos, so you don't have to remember all the links. You can just click on that one URL, which will get you to the R&D show playlist. And right in there, you'll have all the episodes. You can go and play them, replay them, binge watch them, share them, and enjoy them.
Did Reza just say binge watch them?
Binge watch.
I do. Sometimes I'm off and I want to watch YouTube or something in my house. I'll be on Apple TV. I was like, I don't like any shows. I'm going to sit and watch Reza's YouTubes. I might as well sit on the couch and learn something, right?
Okay, let's see what other questions are coming in. Okay, so folks, if you've asked questions before, I would recommend you now the floor is open. So please repost your question because I'm looking at the bottom part of the chat. So ask your questions. We'll try and take as much as we can for the next 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, a question here from James: can we load Power Apps in Power Virtual Agents? Dan, I'll put this to you.
Can we load Power Apps inside Power Virtual Agents? No, you cannot. You cannot. And I don't even know there's a way to work around that, because I mean, you could get the link. Remember, I've actually done a video on that. Is that inside the Power Virtual Agents chat session, the only way you can do any formatting is using the Markdown technique. Markdown is also a very lightweight version of HTML. So if you try to come with some workarounds, you can't put the entire Power Apps in PVA. But there's a user voice, so go post it over there. But as of right now, no, you cannot do that.
Okay, let's keep going. Looking at questions. Well, I'm going to also put comments up here. So we got one comment from Santosh, which says, "Wonderful session. Thank you. Thank you so much for the feedback, Santosh." I'm trying to see if there are any other questions. Can you mention the name of the PVA component you mentioned about iframe? So Yash Agarwal, I'm going to try and get out his Twitter handle if I can. I'm going to try and post it in chat. He has a blog post called "By the Devs," I believe. I'm going to copy that and put it in the chat. So if you go to his blog post, one of it is the iframe component PCF that he built, which allows you to iframe anything as long as it's anonymously accessible inside of Powerapps. So go and check that out. I've put that link in the chat. Okay, let's see if there are other questions here. Reza, you have added another dimension to Power BI, embedding Power Apps embedded. So this has been out for a very long time, actually. I think Dan Christian and Charles Sterling were the first few who really investigated in that space. I think the new thing that I came to know about was adding Power BI inside of Power Apps, not just the tile, the entire report. So yeah, this is, I think I call this Power Inception.
I like it. Power Inception. Hey, we've got some of our friends over here too. I just saw another MVP, Mariano, joined.
Thanks. Hey Mariano, hi. Thanks, how are you?
I think we caught his interest too, because we went there and did a lot of integration. He does a lot of integration as well. So this video caught his interest. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Mariano. All right. We have another question here. I'll put this to Dan.
Okay.
So it's from Kranti for collecting dynamic responses from multiple users. Which data source is to be preferred, or which service is to be preferred? Microsoft Forms or Power Apps? And he's focusing on dynamic data.
All right. So I'm going to understand your question as dynamic data, which means you may click one, drop down, based on that something else changes, and so on and so forth. So if I understood your question correct, that cannot be done in Microsoft Forms. Something like that, you have to go do that in the Power Apps. But remember, Microsoft Forms does give you the flexibility to do it externally a lot easier. Power Apps Canvas doesn't do that. You will have to use Power Apps Portal. So kind of balance that up and see that, okay, granted, I don't have dynamics, but I've got a very easy form to build for an external access. Can I live without the, making it dynamic data over there? The second important thing, and I'll just add on to the dynamic data, is Microsoft Forms is great for a one-time entry, which is why it's fantastic for surveys, fantastic for raffle tickets. But if you want something which will, somebody should be able to add, search, and edit, then again, that's going to be Power Apps. So I know I give you more than what you asked for, but it just based on what you just said, it has to be Power Apps, Canvas apps. But if it's external, then you want to kind of balance what your requirements are. Perfect.
Moving on to the next question. This is from Varun. So after the embedded Power BI report into Power Apps, so that is bringing the whole report into Power Apps with that trick that I showed, can we filter the report within Power Apps with a drop-down control? So the answer to that is a yes, because a Power BI report you can filter by passing query parameters. And the link that I shared, PBI in PA, if you go there, there's a link to the documentation that shows you how to do that. Nothing stops you from making that URL dynamic in Power Apps by reading data from a drop-down control. So yeah, I can have a drop-down control of states, for example, and the user picks a state. It refines the Power BI data with that, the Power BI report with that filter. Honestly, I am thinking of specific video scenarios for future where I can actually leverage this part, because I think this is extremely neat and powerful. Okay, going to take a few more questions. Okay, so this one, I'll probably put this to Dan. This is from Mangesh. Is it possible to connect Power BI as a database? So I'm assuming the data that we pass from Power BI to Powerapps. Is it possible to connect to that? Now, I'm assuming he's asking about not just reading data, but updating that data that comes from the Power BI integration object in Powerapps.
I'm not really sure by Power BI as a database, because Power BI is just a reporting tool. I mean, if there is a data, whatever is the data that you're connecting to in the backend, you can do it both ways. Like, you can do it the way I showed you. Power BI, or Reza showed also, is that you got the Power BI report, you've got the Powerapps Canvas app, and it's already connected. Now, only over there is that we've connected it using the Power BI integration. Yep. Whatever was the data source, which was originally in part of the Power BI form, you can directly connect that to Powerapps. Yep. What you can do is also what Reza showed, is that you can refresh that data set directly from Powerapps as well. So what we showed was very specific to only replace or update items in that Power BI report, because Power BI already did all the filtering, Power BI already got all the data. But if you want to do it in Powerapps standpoint, don't go from the Power BI standpoint, connect it directly to the source. You're going to save yourself a few hops to do that, performance, delay, and stuff like that. So I think, Mangesh, I get the question, but just think a little differently. Don't go through the Power BI route. The only way you want to do that is the Power BI integration we showed from Powerapps as a standalone, or whatever, connected directly from the source side. So I think I got it. Reza, did I get it? Like, I think I got his question.
Yeah, I think you've answered. The key to understand is that object, Power BI integration object, is read only, period. You can use it to show data like I did in the gallery in the first case, but you cannot perform CRUD operations on that. For that, you have to connect to your data source. Okay, quickly moving on to the next question. We're getting a lot actually. So here's Baidi Yusuf. Hi Baidi, he's always been a big fan of you and me, Dan. So his question is there any way we can also leverage the LinkedIn connector, just like you did for Twitter?
I haven't tested it yet. So I'm not going to fully answer that. Two things we always keep in mind is that how do you create that connection to LinkedIn? And then does it have a way to either directly add things to it, like create, or in Twitter it was called post. And if you can't, then through whatever is the API, can you go ahead and do a post? So I haven't spent any time on the LinkedIn, so I really don't know. But go take a look at the LinkedIn connector and see what are the actions available. If they are not, then leverage the API.
So we have Roma on the call. Hi, Roma. Roma says yes.
Awesome. There you go.
I'm assuming she has done some work on that. So yep, if Roma says yes, it's a yes.
Awesome.
Okay. The next question that I want to pop up is, we're getting a lot. We have to be limited. Don't forget, once this video goes live, you can post your comments or your questions as comments in the video as well. So we will respect all of that. But for now, we are limited by time. A question that I see is from Amit. So while you bring the full Power BI experience in Powerapps, if I make change in charts inside Powerapps, will it automatically reflect in Power BI? So the key thing to note here is you are connecting to Power BI. You're bringing the Power BI report inside that tile. So you cannot make changes there. Any changes you need to make, you'll make it in Power BI. So that will reflect there. Now, in terms of data, if I was to, let's say, perform an update operation on my data and go back to that visual inside my Power App, which has the Power BI report, if the Power BI report supports direct query, then yes, you will actually see it live.
Reza, we've got 1 more minute. I think we should kind of give an overview of our next video.
Yes, I think we got to do that. So for all the other questions, I see a lot of other questions coming in. Please post these questions once the video goes live. Just put it in comments. Once it's available on YouTube, just put it in the comments. Dan and I will try and answer as many as we can there. So Dan, you want to close out?
Yeah. So this was our first official R&D show. Thank you so much for joining. This is the beginning of many more to come. So right now, as we stand, we made the decision to do it twice a month or bi-weekly, however you say that. So the next one, will be 2 weeks from now. But we do want to announce what the next one is about. So I'm going to give you a few things. First of all, here is the link to the next one. We do post it a lot in different places. We post it on the Facebook groups, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Those are the 3 places. But I'll go ahead and post the video, the link to that. The next week, the next video is all going to be focused on Power Automate. In Power Automate, we want to start with the basics, and we'll definitely touch a few things. But we want to hit all the 4 different types of runs that we have on the Power Flow side. So it's simple things about, going ahead and what is the automatic triggering, going ahead and how do you schedule it, all the different types of triggers and the flow types, all 4 of them is what we're going to kind of deep dive in. We'll come up with, again, some good examples. In the next one, we will also show some examples. Like this one was a lot more on demo heavy. Like here's how this works and that works. In that video, Reza and I will actually start from scratch. We'll build flows on a whole. And just keep in mind, this is freestyle live coding. So you might do something which might not work. And that's also a good benefit for you, that you will know, it's like, oh, I shouldn't do this way because Reza and Daniel successfully failed live on that one. So I'm not going to do it. So it's freestyle. We're all going to learn together. But the next one is also important because we've noticed a lot of flows being built, which are great. But we want to, in the same video, break them up into 4 different ones. So you will real time right there know, say, oh, this is a scenario to build that flow, or this is a great scenario to build the other type of flow. We'll kind of walk through that side by side, and it's actually going to be a really fun one. Follow us on the social media side. We've also put in the Twitter handle for a new one. We'll be posting more updates over there. Other than that, Reza, any other last minute thoughts?
Yeah, I think many folks ask this question, where do I begin in learning flows, right? The key is to know what are the types of flows, when to use what. So you're going to see that in action in the next episode. I think for me, that's going to be the biggest takeaway. There are multiple types of flows. I'll tell you what, there are 6. Not many people know it. There are 6 trigger types in flows. So we'll show you those 6 different types with specific use cases, and we'll try and build things on the fly. And Reza and Dan will question each other. We'll see why we built certain things, why we built it in a particular way. And of course, we're going to have you guys live. So bring your questions around Power Automate. The session will be focused more on beginners to get started with Power Automate. However, if you have your questions, bring it on, and we will have some good demos and use cases to show as well. So join us again in 2 weeks' time. The date will be, just confirming, Friday, the 27th of August at 11 a.m. Central Time. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And Dan and I will see you again in 2 weeks' time. Bye.